Congratulations on season 2. Much to be proud of. The show is as fun as ever. As we do get into season 2 here, and we add a bunch of old boys into the mix, did it kind of like change the vibe on set as well?
I'm the only boy that matters on that set anyway. So
I mean,
no, not like true. I know what you're saying. It didn't really. I mean, mostly it just changed the dynamic of the show. And anytime you bring in new elements to something that's sort of set, season 1, it throws everybody off balance. And I think it was important. The show won't survive unless we dig into the girls a little more and make try to find some more authentic stories, high school girl stories, which I know very well because I used to be one. From what I see when I talk to these kids, that it's a lot of pressure these days. I mean, we had pressure, but not, there's no social media. There was no, and you feel like a lot of these teenagers, they're just getting bad, and they can't filter bad. So the whole world is bad. They're blaming us. It's heavy, but so we try to bring some of that into the season this year. But bringing the boys element was great. It also illuminates the inequality of men's sports versus women's, which we tap into. Marvin takes 2 steps back. He's still sort of chauvinistic in his ways. He goes into being a modern man in this world, kicking and screaming, but at least he wants to be better, and he wants to grow, and he can say I'm sorry, and then he'll go this way, and then he'll stick his foot in his ear this time. But I think there's a good themes to tap into.
You talk about like the prevalence of social media in the lives of sort of teens these days. I mean, can you imagine if 16-year-old John Stamos had a phone?
I was a sort of a dorky guy. I'm writing a book, which I never thought I would do, but there's I'm trying to find the most relatable moments because I am just and I had a bully in high school, and I'll tell you, it was horrible. And there was no talk of bullies. We couldn't go say, hey, I'm being bullied by this guy there. It was the point where give me a black eye, and I had to go to school. It was so humiliating. And I was at a point where I didn't know what to do. So I looked in the mirror and said, John, you got to be famous. You got to become famous, and then get bodyguards, and then you'll beat him. But oddly enough, I do remember different plateaus in my career going like, now I'm going to show that guy. It's tough. It's hard. But you want to go back to your 12-year-old self. Like I always think of Disney, doing so much Disney. I go, it's going to be okay. Like standing in line I'd like wear my dad's, members only jacket, trying to pick up chicks. It's like,
sure.
Yeah, it's going to be okay, John. One day you'll get a girl. You're going to have the Disneyland sign in your backyard. You're going to be all right. Everything is so much pressure for these girls. But anyway, we're tapping into that on the show. We also, we started this show a couple months after Bob died, and I wanted to, his death obviously hit me very strong, and everybody that knew him and the world really, and the outpouring of love was so humongous for him. It was heartbreaking for Bob not to know it. He didn't know how. He was very insecure, and he didn't realize the impact that he had on the world and how much people loved him. I took Marvin, and it's the last episode, and his coach dies, and he gets this outpouring of love, and Marvin goes, well, what's my legacy going to be? What am I leaving behind? Have I lived the best life I can have? Can I look in the mirror, which he always talks about, and say, I did my very best today? Was I a good person? Was I loving? Was I kind? Was I smart? Bob didn't get to see it, but on the show, at the graduation at the end of the season, the girls get to tell him what he meant to them and what he means to them and other people around him. So it's a nice, very nice tribute to Bob.
Well, speaking of Bob, if I can just ask briefly, I mean, I know some has been made about, potentially getting the gang back together again. I know Dave Coulier has sort of floated some ideas of how he might like to do some sort of Fuller House reunion that would pay tribute to him. Have there been any talks about that? Have you given any thought to whether or not you would want to participate in something like that, and maybe some plans for a way to honor Bob by getting the gang back together?
Well, the gang never got apart, for one. They were together all the time. Candace was I was doing a show in Oklahoma City the other night with the Beach Boys, and she showed up. Great. Bob had a joke, and it was like, we did Full House, we did Fuller House. Next is going to be Fullest House. He would say this joke, and he was he projected a lot, but he said Fullest House would be like, the family and me in an urn on the fireplace, and we just talked we hugged the urn. I don't think, it's just not the same without him. It's not there's something missing. There's a piece missing, and we're doing a lot of tributes. So I did that Netflix special, which is beautiful, I thought. And every chance I get, I talk about him. I know if we're real quiet, we can hear him complaining right now that I don't talk about him enough. But we'll continue to do tributes to him. I don't know about a Full House one, but
we're talking about teenagers, kids of this generation. I mean, John, we're still a little ways away, but you're gonna have to start thinking about these things pretty soon in terms of raising a child in this era. I am curious though, have you started like showing your son stuff that you love, whether or not it's like stuff that you're in, or just like it must be so fun for him to get to an age where you get to show him your favorite TV shows and your favorite movies and stuff. Are you like sort of in that zone now? That's a great
question, because when he was really little, I was like, oh, I can't wait to show him this and show him that. That's very perceptive. You always want your son your kid to think you're cool, right? And he hasn't really yet. I do the voice of Iron Man and Spidey and his amazing friends, and that was cool for him and Mickey's. But we were driving the other day, and Kokomo came on the radio, and I said, Dad, this is pretty cool. Your dad played on this song. And he goes, Dad, takes the longest beat. He goes, do you know the Beatles? But yeah, he loves he likes stuff like stunts. He likes to do stunt work and punching.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think of what I usually play him a lot of music. He's starting to get into the he likes the Beatles now and the Beach Boys and stuff. He's not much of a he doesn't like. I try to get him to play drums, and he's got the attention span of he's a gnat. He's
sure.
But it'll be interesting. I mean, you really have to look and go like, I just got to lay the foundation of being a loving, kind, teach him to be that. And I think we're pretty good examples, my wife and I. The hard thing is, he lives a pretty privileged life, and it's just, Caitlin's great. She takes him down to feed the homeless in Orange County, and we take him on stuff like that. We try to show him that, it's not about, it's about service and, giving back. And I tell him, we're so lucky, say your prayers and thank God for this and thank God. He goes, some kids don't even have a house, do they? I said, no, some kids don't have a backyard. Some kids don't have a pool in their backyard. Some kids don't go to Disneyland every week, So you'd say it. Hopefully it'll stick.